Welcome to Life's Beautiful Synergies. I'm Dr. Rachel Behling. In this episode, we're exploring goal setting in the tech world, from navigating fast-moving landscapes to advancing as a woman in tech, and even looking ahead to the future of leadership in an era of AI and automation. In a field that evolves at lightning speed, staying focused on meaningful goals is both an art and a science. Today, we'll talk about how to set goals that remain relevant without constantly resetting, and balancing short-term deliverables with long-term vision, and evaluating whether your ambitions are bold enough yet achievable. Let's begin. In an era and an industry where things move at the pace of tomorrow, I often get asked, how do you set goals that are both realistic but stay relevant in such a fast-paced and moving environment? Couple things. First and foremost, they should be based on your principles. Those goals should be, one, tried and true and related to who you are, who you want to be, and how those goals set you up both personally and professionally to achieve that. But the second is making sure that you have time to reflect, that those goals are constantly being reevaluated to see whether or not they align with where you are on a quarterly basis, on a half a year and an annual basis, so that they stay relevant. Because we continue to adjust, revise based on the projects that we're on, based on the company that we're working for, maybe even based on the clients that you're assigned to assist. So all those things are going to be part of how you still keep your goals grounded, not only in the reality of who you want to be and who you want to become, but also to keep pace with how fast things are changing in both the company you work for and the projects or the environment that you're in. So oftentimes you're going to have long-term project, program, or even team goals that you might be on. But you've got to find a way to balance those with the more immediate actions that will get you there. So making sure that you have your eye on those bigger long-term goals, but then breaking down and putting them into chunk and small-sized attainable goals is how you're going to get there. So being able to, as Stephen Covey says, beginning with the end in mind, seeing where you need to be after 18 months, 12 months, 24 months, and then being able to break those down so that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, you're taking those smaller actions so that everything you're doing on a daily basis is aligning to where you need to be in the long term. So how do you evaluate whether a goal in tech is going to become stagnant or if it's ambitious enough to stay in line with how the industry is moving or technology is moving? There's a couple things. First and foremost, keep yourself educated on how things are moving outside of your small bubble, right? Whether your bubble is your immediate coworkers, people within your company, or within your social circle, but making sure that you're seeing what's happening out there, whether it's a daily habit of checking the news or being a follower on some of the thought leaders in your technological field. Those are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you're keeping pace, both personally and professionally, with what's going on around you. So you don't get left behind, but also that you're being bold enough and brave enough with what you are keeping as those goals and those self-improvements. So for a woman in tech, there is a reality of the imposter syndrome, facing some of the biases that may or may not still exist in your industry or in your technological world of expertise. And so how do you find that balance? I often get asked between setting those goals and making sure that you're being bold enough and brave enough to get past that imposter syndrome, getting past those biases, and still achieving those goals that bring you to the forefront of where you want to be in your career. Number one is whether you're setting those goals or you're building that brand, your brand's being built for you before you even enter the room. So my advice to women in tech is to constantly be thinking about who do you want to be? What do you look like in the next 5 years? And what are the things that you need to do this year, this quarter, in order to um, catapult yourself into that next version of yourself? Do you need to have more technological skills? Do you need to become better at change adoption? Is there anything in your competency that right now isn't a superpower and you have to work very hard at? Those are all things that you want to make sure that you not only have a plan for and a vision, but that you have those small, tactical, achievable actions that are going to get you there. So let's say you really want to develop the skill to be able to bring in agents into where you work, right? But maybe right now you're just at autonomous skills. So something that you might really want to develop in yourself is, how do you get better at agent development? Do you understand the architecture? Do you understand the process and all the things that are going to be required in order to develop one of those Gen AI agents? And then do you know how to drive adoption once you deploy them? So that may be something, just for an example, that you may want to really focus on, so that not only is it something that you have a narrative and a story and a success in, but that you have enough of a story and experience that you can lead others, guide others, and not feel like you're an imposter when it's time for you to step up and actually help someone deploy technology such as that. One of the most overlooked skills that brings a woman in tech from that mid-level to a more executive level is being able to step back from chaos or ambiguity or a real business problem and be able to use data, technology to help the people to have a better process, and then to automate it, simplify it, and bring in technology that solves that business problem. Sometimes at lower level leadership, it's really challenging to put that whole story and that whole problem statement together. But as middle level female managers are fighting that problem, being able to step into that place where you're able to not only understand that there's a business problem, but being able to come up with data-driven solutions and the change management and the human-centric solution, not centered around a particular technology, because technology comes and goes. We can see at the speed of light the technology is converging, right? Two companies that used to have cutting edge technology just 12 months ago are already merging, and their technology are becoming one. And so as women in tech are looking to advance their careers, continue to have that mindset of understanding what is the business problem that you're trying to solve, and how do you bring in people, process, and tools to help solve that problem, is probably one of the best ways that women in tech can move from that middle management to that more executive leadership where you're influencing on a broader scale. So there's a fine balance between being very strategic and being very tactical in driving those organizational goals. And so some of the advice that I have for women in tech is to don't ever lose sight when you're in the weeds with the technical or the day-to-day or the actions, the owners, or the due dates, that they're always directly connecting back to that bigger vision, that bigger strategy, that more long-term strategic roadmap. And that's that fine balance, right? Is that oftentimes project management is underappreciated, undervalued, and sometimes even underestimated. Sometimes people ask me, or they have the assumption that the farther up in my career I go, the less my project management background becomes necessary. And I'm going to tell you that I, for one, strongly disagree with that mindset. In fact, quite the opposite, that as I continue to be held accountable to driving more and more of a vision or a long-term strategy, being able to execute in the day-to-day, in the tactical, and making sure that it stays aligned is the only way to make sure that the humans that you need to influence come along with you on that journey. Because if we get so caught up in the day-to-day actions that we lose sight of the accomplishments of the day-to-day, the connection to that bigger vision, if we as humans lose sight of that connection, sometimes that's when we start getting burnout, or we stop, hey, what I do doesn't matter, or um, how I contribute. Our teams or even ourselves stop seeing that connection to the bigger team success. That's where we start losing momentum. And so, in summary, I just want to remind everybody that making sure that you have that fine balance as a leader between the tactical day-to-day of actions, owners, and due dates and that bigger vision, that is your superpower. And that's where you truly, truly drive that transformational mindset of bringing all the humans with you on these journeys. So, in talking about goal setting for your teams or yourself, especially in this age of AI, a couple things to consider. First and foremost is that the fundamentals do not go away. Whether you're using ChatGPT, you're using any other AI-powered tool, and there are countless out there, that not to lose track of the fundamentals, which is making sure that you understand where are you spending your time? How can you automate that, make it autonomous, simply stop doing things, or making sure that they are explicitly tied to a bigger goal? Things will continue to move at the pace of innovation and exceptional AI, Gen AI, and agentic mind frames. We're going to continue to see things move at a pace that we've never experienced before. But focusing on the fundamentals of goal setting, making sure that we're reviewing them, that they stay true, that they stay relevant, and that we're constantly utilizing goal setting to augment the human experience. What our humans need to do, when they need to do them, how they need to do them, and making sure that as often as possible, that all that goal setting stays specific tool agnostic as possible, which means that the tools that you're using within your team, try not to get too caught up in using one specific tool because the technology happens to be what you need in the moment, but making sure that the tool is supporting the humans and the process. It's going to become even more important than it ever has before. So that's the first part. The second part is keeping your teams so that they don't get change fatigue if you're constantly introducing another tool to help them with goal setting, and to be driving that goal attainment, making sure that you're just not flipping from one technology to the next so that the team spends more time learning the new technology tool that you're bringing into the goal setting or the goal tracking than actually doing the work. That's something that we need to always consider. So as leaders, we need to be constantly leaving space so that the team has space to explore between consistency and ingenuity, innovation, trying new things. But there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance with that change adoption curve so your teams don't feel change fatigue. They need to have a place where, for example, maybe once every 2 weeks, you have one of your staff meetings, or every other Friday, one of your leaders drives Innovation Friday, where the team can come in, they can explore what is the latest, greatest technology tool that's out there, right? That the team can talk about it, they can brainstorm on it, they can try to figure out if there's a use case within your team, within your technical stack, but also to find that balance between what they've all just recently agreed to bring into your team and give them time to do the adoption, to do the forming, norming, storming, that whole process before you introduce something new. The other piece is trust. When someone is trying a new technology, or they're thinking of a very creative or out of the box approach to a problem, having a safe space for your teams to try something and to be able to back out of it if it didn't work. That you truly have the culture that I made the best decision with the data that I had in the moment. But now I have more data, or I've had a chance to practice, and it's no longer relevant, or it's no longer the best tool, or it's no longer the best practice that helps to support the team in the moment that we're in. And so having a place where the team trusts that if they fight hard to bring in technology or a new automation or a new process, and then a couple months down the road, they're free to be able to raise their hand and say, you know what, I think we actually should stop investing in this, or we should stop spending time and effort on this because it no longer is providing the business value that we thought. The team has to be able to trust you as a leader to be able to step back from a situation or from a project or something that they brought in, and be able to raise their hand and say, this is no longer the best solution that we have. We think we should cut our losses and move on to something else. So that piece of trust is going to become even more important as we continue to lead our teams in this new era. Data becomes and will continue to become a significant driver in how we set goals, monitor goal attainment, and redefine and reassess the next goals that we need to set for either ourselves personally, professionally, for our teams, with our customers, with our business partners, and so forth. And the integrity of the data will become even more crucial as we bring in agentic solutions, as we rely more and more on Gen AI and autonomous workflows to pull data for us, give us insights, even suggest next steps and recommendations, or to do autonomous actions based on that data is become more and more critical. A very tactical approach to making sure that that data still has the integrity by which we should be taking actions is that we have a weekly or a biweekly pause in our process to do some audits to make sure that the fields that we're pulling from, the data that we're using, and the updates to that data are still helping us to have the same trust in the data and the outcomes and the automations that are based on it. It's going to become even more important as we use that data to track how we're doing in our actions, our owners, our due dates, and in the measurement of the goals and the KPIs that we're driving within our teams and within our own personal and professional goals that we're setting every year. As we wrap up today's conversation, remember that goal setting in tech is about intentional focus, adaptability, and aligning your actions with your long-term vision. Whether it's navigating a fast-moving tech landscape, advancing as a woman in technology, or exploring how AI and automation are reshaping leadership, true progress comes from consistent, deliberate choices. What we discussed today is about transforming ambition into sustainable growth. And looking forward, using data, automation, and agile thinking can help leaders plan with clarity while maintaining flexibility and for unexpected challenges. If today's discussion resonated with you, I'd love for you to continue with this journey with us. Follow Life's Beautiful Synergies wherever you watch your podcasts, and connect with me online for more insights about goal setting, leadership, and thriving in tech as a woman and a professional. Until next time, remember, it's not just about the goals you set, but the intentional choices you make to stay focused, lead with impact, and grow consistently in your career and life.